Welcome again to the channel, Capricorn. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dadhichi from astrology.com.au with your March 2016 horoscope. But right now, the way I've been approaching some of this stuff is that it starts to sound more like a philosophy, come spiritual session. I think that's important to tie that in because ultimately astrology is not simply about what happens to you in terms of events. It's very much about what is going on within yourself. And this month for you in particular, if we just follow the theme, quite a few planets are going to be impacting on your third house. Third house is conscious thinking, it's your day-to-day routine and that type of thing. And while I started talking to you about this, I recall, probably 30 years ago, I was taken by a book that I started studying by, I think his name was Harold Percival, called Thinking and Destiny. But what I came to understand, not just after reading his book, but studying a lot of the different Vedic philosophy, the Kashmir Shaivite philosophy, was that, and this, listen carefully to this because I think this is the crux of the biscuit this month for you, is that thinking and destiny are not different things. Thinking is destiny. That's the key this month. If you understand clearly that how you think actually manifests everything that's going on in your life. Now, that even has to do with the most difficult circumstances in your life, because how you perceive that particular event really determines what that event is in terms of your personal experience of that event. The Sun, Neptune, Ketu or the South Node, the past karma point, all transiting through this area, and significantly to a new moon taking place there on the 9th as a solar eclipse there in your third house, showing that this part of your experience is what needs to be focused on right now. How are you thinking? It's not what you're thinking, it's also how you're thinking. Are you thinking about things in a good way, in a positive light? Are you thinking about the difficult circumstances in a way that can create an opportunity for you through that circumstance? The third house gives problematic journeys. We also see Saturn in the 12th house. That's the place of immigration, it's the place of long distance journeys along with the 9th house. Third house is short distance journeys, but the square aspect, this hard aspect from Saturn, as the Sun is moving in its transit now, is going to cause you to probably have some negative thoughts about the circumstances you're in, about the people you're in relationship with, about those you work with, or for, or against. Maybe against is the operative word, which could be the case if your thinking is not clear, is not systematized, is not rational, is purely conditional, based upon the habits that you've had over the months and years, and maybe even lifetimes, because the karmic point there does point to the fact that this is not simply something that has happened recently. It can be a lag, a karmic lag from previous lives. So Saturn in that 12th house, and then very, very shortly, once the month commences, we see the transit of Mars on the 6th. Okay, that just precedes that eclipse, moving into the 12th house, and this is a very another key area for you, Capricorn, over the coming months. The Mars transit closing in on your ruling planet Saturn in the 12th house. Now, I've had a few clients over the years, Capricorn, either Capricorn rising or sun sign or moon sign, having that Saturn transiting the 12th house. That is very much a place of retirement, withdrawal, a gathering. So many of you are going through this, and I've talked about that. Having Mars enter into this particular part of the zodiac is going to really whip up a bit of a storm there, but it may not be a storm you want. On the one hand, you could be feeling more comfortable about going inward. Maybe some of you already are contemplating what I've just started this reading talking about. That is analysing your thinking, looking at how your thinking is impacting upon your life, your relationships, how it's creating your destiny, and looking at ways to, change your perception of things. Now, when Mars moves into this area after the 6th, it is going to really start to dredge up some of the stuff from the past, and that can be a bit of an overload. And when Mars and Saturn are together, it can produce a rather inhibitive sort of process in the way these two planets function, because they are diametrically opposed in nature. So while you may want to rid yourself of some of these circumstances or thought patterns, Saturn may not let you do that. Your ruling planet may have you entrenched in some of those ways of thinking. And so dealing with your past, I think, during this month is going to be one of the more critical sorts of things you have to deal with. And that's going to continue over the next few months. I want to keep working on this with you so that you can somehow dig in there and release this stuff without all the attendant sort of psychological complexes and problems that go with that. And that's all the more complex if you're in any sort of relationship. The Sun will move to the 4th house of your horoscope on the 21st of March. And that will precede the flip side of the new moon that I'm talking about in this 3rd house, which is going to take place, a full moon, in your 10th house of profession, in the sign of Libra, also as an eclipse. So 4th house, 10th house. 4th house is your family and your domestic situation, and 10th house is obviously career. So some of the patterns of thinking and let's just say problem solving as well may relate to this huge balancing act between your work and your domestic sphere. I think I may have touched on this in the previous months. And for those of you that are new here, you might even want to go back, even though you probably think that, what's 2014 got to do with 2016? You can start to tie in this thread of the precedent events and how they are affecting the current transits right now. But that full moon is important. At least on a positive note, it can bring some really good opportunities in your professional life. And that's after the 23rd. There's one other transit here I'd like to talk about. There's a transit of Mercury. Mercury is your 9th ruler. This is the higher mind. It's moving into the square on the 31st of Pluto. Again, that is in your sun sign right now. So that is also a very, very significant transit. It will be moving into the sign of Aries. Well, it will have been in the sign of Aries, but it will be in the right angle to Pluto, which can be very, very transformational. But again, as with the Mars and Saturn transit, it can tear things down in a rather ruthless manner. So you need to be prepared for that and start strengthening the process of your thinking to get through some of these transits in March. Don't forget to join me at astrology.com.au. I'm there available if you would like to have a more detailed analysis that is more specifically related to your time of birth, your place of birth. That's a proper personal reading. Then we can get right down deep into some of these issues that may be lingering for you. I'm more than happy to help you with that. You can contact me here or at the site astrology.com.au, and I do hope to have your company next month. Take care till then. Bye bye now.